Welcome everyone to the NFL Chat 2021 mock draft. We're going to do round one today. Joining me today are Norm Lepine, Mark Jean, and Alex Maxwell. We're all going to make 8 picks with picking basically every fourth pick, and except with the exception of Norm and I swapping the Broncos pick with the Lions pick. So
I think we swapped me for the Jets pick too, right?
What's that?
I got swapped out for the Jets pick too, right?
Yeah, because you wanted to take Justin Fields instead of Zach Wilson. So
no, I mean at 23.
Oh yes. Who has the Jets pick? Or you have it instead of his?
I have it now,
Norm, right?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Cool. Okay, so this pick's been locked in since Trevor Lawrence's freshman year. Slam dunk pick for the Jags. Sorry, Jeaner, as a Jets fan. So the Jags are going to take Trevor Lawrence at number 1. Mark, you're up at number 2 with New York Jets.
Well, for about 6 months there, I thought we were going to get Trevor Lawrence, and then we decided to blow that. But we get probably the best consolation prize I've seen in a long time in Zach Wilson. I think this is a no-brainer too. This is pretty much 100% guaranteed. Jets have been linked to him, to his camp. Even Steve Young says they're going to take him. He's a BYU guy. He has big connections there, so he's the perfect guy to run that offense. Big, strong arm, good athlete, extremely smart with the ball. The only concerns about him are injury concerns, obviously, and then a little bit of a small sample size. But to me, he's as close to a sure thing as you can get without being Trevor Lawrence. I think the only thing that could derail him is injuries, but I'm going to stay away from that side of the conversation for now.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea, Rand. It seems like injuries are pretty random anyway.
Yeah.
All right, so now I guess the draft can really get started. So, Norm, you're up at number 3 with the San Francisco 49ers.
Okay, we're going to take Justin Fields, number 3 here. He's been kind of pushed down draft boards a little bit since the middle of the season, but he's been talked about being a top pick almost since he come out of high school. And he didn't play up to he played down to teams a little bit this season a couple times, but he showed he can be a good quarterback when it comes to the NCAA playoff there. He's a perfect fit for San Francisco. Mac Jones isn't a thought.
Do you think NFL teams put any stock into him getting his ribs blown up and then staying in the game?
I think so. I think obviously you don't want, to pull a Colt McCoy and as soon as you get hurt, run to the sidelines and try and protect your NFL career. I don't think they like that.
I thought you were going to say be like Colt McCoy and suck.
That too.
Yeah, I think Justin Fields has the potential to be good. I just think he's a little bit more of a project. And I think San Fran is too ready to win right now. And then they gave up first-round picks for the next 3 years. I don't see them taking a project personally. I think Mac Jones is the pick. Mac Jones can step in. Matt Jones is basically Matt Ryan from a skill set standpoint. And you saw what he did to Shanahan. So to me, I think that's kind of where people are coming from. And guys like Chris Sims are saying the same thing, where he's kind of the fit, I think. But I mean, it could be Fields for sure. His skill set definitely fits in with what they do as well. So
I think the quarterbacks with mobility tend to, forgive the pun, hit the ground running a little faster because they have more options. I don't know. The quarterbacks that sit in the pocket tend to take a little more time to develop. Even Andrew Luck, he didn't have like a well-graded season until like his 4th season or something like that.
Yep.
You're
looking at San Fran though. San Fran is 2 years out of the Super Bowl, and their only injuries are the only reason they weren't a top team last year. So this is basically like a guy getting drafted in the 20s to 30s to me, which is how good San Fran's roster is. It's not like a typical Jets or Jaguars thing where you're trying to build an entire franchise around the guy, right?
I think too, if you are in win now mode, maybe a guy that has more mobility is the answer, because you don't have to let him sit for a little bit or develop as a passer. He can affect the game with his legs, and if instead of throwing an interception, maybe he takes off and gets a first down, or maybe you have run some RPO type stuff or zone read and let him use his legs a little bit while he gets comfortable with like NFL systems.
Yeah, I can see it for sure.
Yeah, we won't spend too much time on this pick, but I think this is the most intriguing pick of the draft, I say. And this is a pick that we could look back on who knows, 5-10 years from now and say, like, this was a franchise defining moment. Like, if they do end up taking Justin Fields and Mac Jones and Trey Lance end up being starting caliber quarterbacks, or they go to multiple Pro Bowls, and they took Fields and he's a bust, fans are going to look back and the team's going to look back and say, you know, we should have took one of those guys instead of Fields.
Yeah.
Oh, there's going to be,
go ahead.
there'll be several teams tied to this pick for years. Like, obviously it was Houston's pick. Miami backed out.
Yeah.
San Francisco moved up. Like, people are going to look back at this for years, and it's going to decide some teams' fates.
For sure, man.
Yeah, and especially with the Miami thing, if Tua doesn't work out, which I know not a lot of us in NFL chat are very impressed with Tua, especially with his arm. If they could have, you know, stayed at number 3 and taken a quarterback, kind of like the Cardinals did at number 1 with Kyler Murray after taking Rosen, yeah, this could definitely impact quite a few teams. So with no trades allowed in this mock draft, because I don't have premium and I wasn't going to pay for it, Alex Maxwell is on the clock at number 4, which is probably a trade down spot, and you want to trade down, right?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah. So because that's not an option, what would you like to do here at number 4?
Since the NFC South is pretty much based on offense, I'm going to go with Kyle Pitts out of Florida to try and keep up with the other teams in the division. I know our defense is shit, but they're always going to be shit no matter who we draft. So I'm going to go offense.
Yeah, I like that one.
Kyle Pitts at number 4. That's I think that's probably his ceiling. I can't see, obviously, I don't think Miami would have taken him at 3 anyway, but yeah, I think that's probably as high as he's going to go. So I'm on the clock now at number 5 with the Bengals, and this is a pick that I've kind of been going back and forth on. And I mean, it's obvious that it's between Penei Sewell and Jamar Chase. They took Jonah Williams last year to play left tackle, and early on I thought they would go with Sewell, but everything I'm reading now from all the Bengals guys that I follow on Twitter, everything points to Chase. So that's the direction that we're going to go here, is Jamar Chase to the Bengals at number 5.
I like it, man. I mean, the Penei Sewell thing is obviously a big one too, but I don't know. I think if you have a chance to have a wide receiver core of Jamar Chase and T. Higgins to go with Joe Burrow for the next decade, you're laughing.
Yeah, I think I would have went Kyle Pitts had he fallen.
Yeah.
Just so that, you know, they have a little more diversity. I don't think Drew Sample is really going to prevent you from taking Kyle Pitts. I've been, you know, listening to a lot of PFF stuff talking about win rates and how much each position affects wins, and a top end wide receiver is going to affect the game a lot more than a top end tackle will, as well as, like, this is a very deep tackle class as well as a pretty deep wide receiver class. So that was kind of a wash for me. If one of the positions was a little lighter, if tackle was pretty light, then I probably would have went Sewell. But I mean, they can take a tackle at the top of round 2, and I think they'll be okay with it. So Mark, you're up at number 6 with the Miami Dolphins. So
this is basically a choice between Tua's old teammates here. It's a no-brainer. You got to go with a receiver here. But I think I'm going to give them Jalen Waddle. I know Devontae Smith has all the hype in the world, and he's an amazing player, but I think you're looking for someone to blow the top off the defense in Miami for you. You've already got Parker there. He's a pretty good receiver. He'd be an excellent number 2. Gesicki's a good tight end. Now you need that burner in Jalen Waddle, or that guy that could take one of Tua's little 5-yard slants and turn it into an 80-yard touchdown or something like that, right? So someone like that. They could do a little bit more trickery with them, running them around on sweeps, stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, obviously there's the injury concerns with Waddle, but I don't know. To me, he's the second best receiver in the class.
And I mean, he was outperforming Devontae Smith when they're on the field together. I mean, Devontae Smith had a historic season, obviously won the Heisman.
Yeah.
It is very difficult for me and as a front office to invest in somebody who's going to have to be an outlier with, you know, height, weight, speed to perform at number, especially if you're going to take him at 6.
Yeah,
like, his
sure.
injury concerns are huge. He's small. And there's the argument that, you know, he did this to SEC corners and NCAA corners and tore them up, but the NFL is a different game.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, bigger, stronger. Those linebackers are a lot bigger if he's going to be going across the middle. He's just going to have to really be an outlier to be successful when he's that small.
I mean, Waddle was still arguably the best receiver they had on that team when they had Ruggs and they had Judy too. Like he's pretty special when he's out there. But I think Miami's the one team that can kind of afford to take a little bit of a chance. Like they're loaded and they have so many draft picks. Like if Jalen Waddle gets hurt and busts, it's not going to kill them. I mean, it's obviously not ideal to waste another top 10 pick, but.
So do you think Waddle is more risky than Devontae Smith?
I mean, just because he's coming off an injury, but I Devontae Smith, the way he plays and his weight, it kind of concerns me a bit. But I don't know. I think they're both going to be exceptional players. I think we could look back at the draft and see 3 elite receivers, but
they also signed Will Fuller for a game and a half a year. So
yeah, exactly.
So he'll be able to take a few snaps away.
Yeah.
All right. So now I'm on the clock again with Detroit at number 7 because Norm and I swapped picks because he's a Broncos fan. This is a tough pick because the Lions need help everywhere.
Yeah.
The Jared Goff trade, I think they just traded it basically to take on his contract and get the picks. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go Penei Sewell here at number 7. Plug him in at right tackle. They can kind of pound the rock with DeAndre Swift and kind of ease it a little bit on Jared Goff. I know that's not usually the way to go, is to protect your quarterback, but Sewell could be a Pro Bowler for them and really make their offensive line a strength. So the Lions are going to take Penei Sewell at number 7. Alex Maxwell, you're on the clock at number 8 with Carolina.
Alrighty, the Panthers are going to select Rashawn Slater to help bolster the offensive line. With the addition of Sam Darnold, it should help a bit. But I just don't know much about Rashawn Slater, so I can't tell you very much at all.
He's good. He's Penei Sewell and Rashawn Slater are basically 1A and 1B. Kind of depends on what you're looking for. Slater's a lot more versatile. Slater, you can start that guy at 4 positions on the offensive line from day one. He's a little bit short in the arms is the big concern with him. To be considered, a legitimate left tackle for some teams. But he's insanely athletic. He'd really help out in that run scheme that they run there. He's like amazing at cutting off linebackers, things like that in zone schemes. So pairing him with in an offense with a guy like Christian McCaffrey seems pretty ideal to me.
Yeah,
I think teams that have immobile quarterbacks, i.e. Sam Darnold, Teddy Bridgewater, those guys that they have in Carolina, they need better pass protection in the interior because they're going to step up in the pocket instead of try to get to the outside. So I think if the Panthers do take Slater, I think they would probably kick him inside the guard. Would be my guess.
I think he's like one of those guys that's a Pro Bowl guard from day one if they put him there. He's got.
Yeah, and I mean, he has a pretty high ceiling as well, right? So he easily could pass Sewell, but I think Sewell's probably a better fit at tackle, and Slater's a better fit on the inside.
Yeah, throw on the tape of Slater against Davis last year, or Chase Young, not Davis.
2 years ago.
Yeah, Chase Young 2 years ago absolutely stonewalled the guy.
Also in the comparison, Sewell, he didn't have the best pro day. No. He came in at 6'4" and 7/8. His drills weren't as fast as everybody thought he was going to be. He's 330 pounds, but I feel like he kind of underwhelmed at his pro day.
Yeah,
and who knows how his pro day would have went if he would have played this year too.
His arms came up short though too. They say you need 34-inch arms to play tackle in the NFL. They were docking Slater for that, but Penei Sewell came in under 34 inches as well.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's because they shrunk because he took the year off.
Absolutely.
All right, Norm, you're back on the clock at number 9 with your Denver Broncos.
Okay. The Broncos are going to select Trey Lance. They just flat out need a quarterback. Drew Lock is not working out the way some people thought he would. He's a little too inconsistent. And Trey Lance kind of gives them a chance to maybe give Drew Lock a little more time, see what he's got. Trey Lance can sit on the bench a little bit and then try and take over as franchise quarterback. He's definitely a little inexperienced and not playing this year well, playing only one game this year doesn't help, but he's got all the physical tools to, turn into a Josh Allen type or somebody like that. And the Broncos don't have too many needs for a team that finished as low as they did. They kind of got beat up by injuries this year. So I think, quarterback's the way to go.
And them signing Kyle Fuller and Ronald Darby really patched some holes, because every mock that we saw early on in the process in January, early February was corner, unless they were trading up for a quarterback. So now that they've kind of fixed that, and like with two pretty good players too, they're not just guys off the street, right? Like Fuller can be a Pro Bowler, Darby's a good player. They really like fixed that cornerback issue. So I think quarterback's probably where you're going to see a lot of picks in the mocks, unless teams trade above them and they take all those quarterbacks.
I think this is who trades up to 4 with Atlanta. That's my prediction. It just makes too much sense.
Yeah, I agree with that. Norm, if Trey Lance was gone, would you have selected Mac Jones?
He's definitely a possibility. Yeah.
Okay, so let's
Depending
say
on
Trey
who's on
Lance
the
is
board.
gone. Okay, so let's say the board looks exactly like it does, and I would have taken Trey Lance, because that was one of my options at 7 for the Lions. So if the Lions had selected Trey Lance at 7, who would you have taken?
If Sewell was there, I'd take Sewell over Mac Jones.
And Slater over Mac Jones as well?
That's really close. No, I think you take Mac Jones.
Yeah, I think you got to take the QB, right?
Yeah,
If you don't have one, which you don't.
no.
Right.
Denver's got such a
Okay,
good
so-
history of drafting QBs. I might as well try another one.
Hopefully,
it could be
new
another
GM.
Paxton Lynch.
But you do have to keep. I think like some teams get gun shy.
Yeah.
And I think you do have to keep swinging on quarterback, just like Houston did a few years ago. Like they didn't stop at Brock Osweiler. Seattle didn't stop going after quarterback when they signed Matt Flynn to that contract. They still ended up going through with Russell Wilson. Like you just got to keep swinging at the quarterback position in the NFL, because unless like just look at what San Francisco's doing, and they can't survive with a mediocre quarterback. Same with Sean McVay. He's realizing, the Garoppolos and the Goffs, they can take you to the playoffs, but you need something to push you over the top.
Yep.
And one thing to add to that, the problem with drafting a quarterback and then sitting him is that you're wasting, if he sits for a full year, there goes 20% of his rookie deal.
Mhm.
And that's the biggest advantage that you have, is that rookie contract that quarterbacks are on. And with the Packers, with Jordan Love, I mean, they're not going to be too upset if Love ends up being a 15-year starter for them. But if not, I mean, they've wasted a first-round pick in Aaron Rodgers' prime. And if Love starts for 3 years, there's 40% of his rookie deal gone.
Yeah.
So Mark, you're back on the clock now at number 10 with the Cowboys.
This is another no-brainer. They're going to take Patrick Surtain in the second. They need help in the secondary. They'll pair him with Diggs, and they'll have a pretty nice little 1-2 punch there. We still got Jordan Lewis there too. Surtain's long. He's super athletic. Never gets beat on double moves too, is the one thing I was seeing about him. Never ever bites. Really good instincts. I mean, he's got a couple things. He takes a lot of penalties. This is the one thing he's got to clean up. But from everything I've seen and heard, like there's nothing about his game that's a big glaring weakness. There's little things you can tweak here and there. But I think this kid's a stud. He's your press man corner for the next, like lock down that side of the field kind of a guy. And I think it's just a no-brainer here for Dallas.
So we were talking earlier about us feeling old, and it's funny seeing all these guys like Patrick Surtain II, Asante Samuel Jr., J.C. Horn,
it's
like all
crazy.
these guys who like we were playing with in Madden when we were kids, and now their kids are in the NFL.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
So no wonder you couldn't get on the Zoom properly.
Yeah, no kidding, eh?
Yeah. So here's another interesting pick. Norm, you're on the clock with the Giants at 11.
Yeah. I am going to take Devonta Smith here.
Yeah.
I think it's Kenny Galladay is not enough. They need to build up a little more around Daniel Jones. Give him a little bit of a chance there. Devonta Smith's not my favorite wide receiver in the draft, but you can't, he's definitely the last guy left in this tier. That's for sure. He's still a good talent. That's for sure.
He could be like one of the best number twos in the league too, right? If he goes over there and you got Golladay already, take a little bit of the pressure off Smith. I think that offense, like if Daniel Jones can't succeed with Saquon Barkley, Devontae Smith, Steve or Slayton and Golladay, I don't know like what you're gonna do with the guy. So this is kind of the prove it for him, I think.
Yeah, they'll be picking quarterback next year if Daniel Jones doesn't succeed this year. If they do get the Devontae Smith pick ready. Alex, you're on the clock now at number 12 with the Philadelphia Eagles.
Ooh. I do not like this team whatsoever. Their offense doesn't seem very dynamic. At least they haven't been able to put much together lately anyways, because of Carson Wentz. They don't need a tight end right now. I was hoping for Devontae Smith to slide down to number 12 to me. All the other receivers, I can't see them going this soon. So I'm probably going to go cornerback and pick South Carolina's J.C. Horn to maybe make a difference on that terrible team.
The good thing is the whole NFC East sucks.
Yeah, that's true.
Is Philadelphia becoming one of the worst run teams in the NFL?
Oh yeah, by far.
Did you guys hear about the owner and the GM calling Doug Peterson up after every game and basically like they wanted to go through all of his decisions, like certain plays and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Like, the guy was a Super Bowl winning coach. Jeez.
Yeah, it's not Chip Kelly there anymore, where you want to micromanage everything and kind of see what's going on. But that's a good way to drive away good coaches and potential free agents, because the agents are going to talk to one another, and players might share an agent, and if agents are talking and saying, hey, like Philadelphia is a wasteland, then it's going to be tough to get free agents to go there.
Yeah. Well, the past two coaches they fired are Super Bowl winning coaches, Peterson and Andy Reid. Like,
yeah.
I don't know.
I don't disagree with you. So I'm on the clock at 13 with the Chargers, and this is another pick that's pretty easy. I'm going to go with Christian Darrisaw, the tackle from Virginia Tech. With Herbert playing I'm not going to say he played really well, but he played well enough, and he definitely exceeded most of our expectations last year. I think a lot of it was the volume that he had, but with how well he played as a rookie, I think they need to protect him and try to keep him upright. And this is another team that doesn't have a ton of holes. So they need somebody who can come in and play, and especially in that division, like they need as many wins as they can get. Like if they can go like 11-6, like they're going to make the playoffs, which is also weird to say going 11-6, but I'm trying to make sure I say the 17 instead of the 10-6. So it's going to take a little bit, but Darrisaw, I think is the pick there for the Chargers. So Mark, you're on the clock at 14 with the Vikings.
All right. So the Vikings, there's a couple of ways you could go here. You could go offensive tackle, but I think, the big guys are gone. I don't really want to go for a guy like Vera Tucker or Jenkins quite yet. I think that we kind of look back at the Minnesota teams from a few years ago, and the big thing that they always had was elite edge rushers, and they're kind of missing that now. So it's basically, which edge do you like? To me, Jalen Phillips is the best edge rusher in the draft. There's obvious big time injury concerns, but it's also the risk you're taking. You're possibly getting a guy who, if he was healthy his whole career, is probably a top 5 pick. He's that talented. But yeah, so I think they're going to go. I think I would go Jalen Phillips here. Give them a pass rusher.
Right. Okay, Jalen Phillips, the edge from Miami to Minnesota at 14. So Norm, you're on the clock here at 15 with the New England Patriots.
New England Patriots are going to take Mac Jones, Alabama.
I can see the pain on your face there.
Tom Brady 2.0. Here we go.
It was a close one. Like There's another player on the board I liked, but again, you got to take a swing at quarterback. They've tried to pile on some talent on that team, obviously spending a ton in free agency, but you need a quarterback for the future. And if, Cam Newton had some excuses last year, like with COVID and he had no wide receivers at all, but not that Mac Jones is going to have any, but you still have to take that swing on quarterback, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah. All right. So Alex, you're on the clock at 16 with the Arizona Cardinals.
Does anyone remember the record from last year? Did they make the playoffs?
No, they just
the most number of scrambles by a quarterback ever. Oh, you mean their win-loss record? Sorry, no, I don't.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they were 8-8. I think I want to say, but
8-8.
Yeah, something around there.
Yeah.
I'm debating between Travis Etienne or Vera Tucker.
Mm-hmm. They did just sign James Conner like 2 days ago too, right?
Yeah, but he's injury prone.
James Conner, yeah.
He's falling off that cliff real quick.
Yeah, they were 8-8.
Yeah, I think they'll do okay on offense. I'm gonna go. We'll get Kyler Murray some protection, and I'm gonna take Vera Tucker out of USC.
All right, Elijah Vera Tucker to the Cardinals at 16. I'm just going to quickly recap the draft here. So at 1, obviously the Jags took Trevor Lawrence. Another pretty easy pick with the Jets taking Zach Wilson at 2. Justin Fields to the Niners at 3. Kyle Pitts to the Falcons at 4. Jamar Chase to the Bengals at 5. Jalen Waddle to the Dolphins at 6. Penei Sewell to the Lions at number 7. Rashawn Slater to the Panthers at number 8. Trey Lance to the Broncos at 9. Patrick Surtain II to the Cowboys at number 10. DeMonte Smith to the Giants at 11. J.C. Horn to the Eagles at 12. Christian Darrisaw to the Chargers at 13. Jalen Phillips to the Vikings at 14. Mac Jones, the slide ends at 15 to the Patriots, and then Elijah Vera Tucker to the Cardinals at 16. So I'm on the clock now with the Raiders at 17, and this is a pretty easy pick. I think they're going to go Micah Parsons here. Their defense needs a ton of help. I think they're going to address the offensive line in the second round, especially with all the big boys gone. I think Darrisaw might have been in consideration here, but with Micah Parsons falling to 17, I think this is a pretty quick pick for the Raiders, and they're going to bolster their defense. So Micah Parsons, the linebacker from Penn State, to the Raiders at 17. Mark, you're on the clock at 18 with the Dolphins.
Okay. The Dolphins, this is another spot where you might see a running back come off the board. You could see an offensive tackle. They need an edge rusher as well. For me, like, it's kind of been it's a weird year for edge rushers. There's there's a lot of uncertainty around all of them. So it's kind of one of those things where I think 2 of the safest picks in this draft are the running backs. We know what they are. They both produced for a long time and for a few years in college anyways. I think they're going to go Najee Harris. Give him another, just create Alabama light offense here. Get Tua Najee and Jalen Waddle. But again, Miami's got this is going to be a scary team in a couple of years, man. Like, they don't have a lot of holes in that roster to begin with, and they have a ton of draft picks. Like, their front office is doing an unbelievable job. So I think they can afford to take a little bit of a luxury here and take a potential elite running back.
Yeah, if they can finally figure the quarterback position out, that's going to be a tough team to deal with in the AFC.
But if they can pound the ball and just run play actions and short passes to guys like Jalen Waddle, like, I think Tua can be somewhat successful in that style of an offense.
Yeah, I think they're going to succeed in spite of him.
Yeah.
So Norm, you're on the clock at 19 with the Washington football team.
Okay, Washington's not in the best spot here. They kind of need a tackle, losing Trent Williams last year. And I think those guys are mostly gone at this spot. we are going to go with Rashad Bateman out of Minnesota. Give them a little more help on offense there. I know they just signed Curtis Samuel, but he's not like your traditional outside guy. So I give Fitzpatrick a little help this year, and then whoever you're bringing in the future, some help.
Yeah, and I think this is the area that Bateman goes. I think Chicago could take him, Indy could take him, Tennessee could take him. I think this is probably the area that Bateman's going to go in the NFL draft.
Yeah.
Alex, you're on the clock at 20 with Chicago.
Chicago really needs a quarterback right now, but there's none worth taking at the back half of this first round. So we're going to prepare for the future and get Tevin Jenkins out of Oklahoma State. Like I said,
Yeah,
I
that's
don't
who
know.
actually I was eyeing up.
I love
Yeah.
Tevin Jenkins. I'm
Nice.
praying he falls with the Jets at 23. Like, the guy is just nasty. Like, watch it, put some film on him. He is absolutely nasty. He just buries guys. I'm a big fan of Tevin Jenkins.
I'm on the clock now at 21 with the Colts. I've seen a lot of Jason Oweh picks here just because that he's kind of the type of guy that the Colts like, being like the rangy athlete. But I think with Kwity Paye falling this far, I don't think they can pass on a more polished guy. I don't buy too much into the 0 sacks for Oweh because he was very disruptive and had some pressures, but I think Paye's too good of a player to pass on at 21 for the Colts. The pick would have been Tevin Jenkins had he been there, but it got sniped obviously by Chicago there at 20. So the Colts go with Kwity Paye at 21. Mark, you're on the clock at 22 with Tennessee.
I think this is the pick that me and Norm swapped, right? Because I got the Jets at 23.
Okay.
Okay, I'm making 22. Okay, I wasn't prepared for that.
I can do
Well,
it.
I'll recap
No, I
the
got
last
it.
couple picks here. So Micah Parsons went 17 to the Raiders. The first running back came off the board at 18 to the Dolphins with Najee Harris. Rashad Bateman went 19th to Washington. Tevin Jenkins went number 20 to Chicago, and then Kwity Paye went 21st to the Colts. Is there any picks, Mark or Alex, that you guys really loved or really hate so far? What?
Honestly, I think we've done a pretty good job, to be honest with you. Like, I think there hasn't been any crazy reaches or anything. I think there's a lot of defensive guys following a little bit further than this is a super offensive draft, but especially like Kwity Paye falling to 21 is probably not going to happen. But yeah, to me, it's going pretty much the way I expected, I think.
What about you, Alex?
Yeah, I agree. I know it's more offensive. I've been scouting most of these offensive players, and I know little about the defense, just the very basic stuff.
Yeah. It's a weird draft. I think this is going to be the draft where we're going to see probably the most busts we've ever seen and the most like guys outperforming their draft positions. I think guys are like people are just so confused with what to do with guys like especially edge rushers. Nobody has any idea who the best. You look at 32 teams, there's probably like 15 different orders that they have the edge rushers in. So it's kind of it's a weird draft.
And there's almost a built-in excuse too for the front offices because it's such a weird year, and you're gonna see some later round hits and some like you said, some early round busts.
Yeah. I was wondering
You're on the
something I was
clock.
thinking about. I was wondering what was going to happen is teams at the back end of the first round trading back and trying to acquire picks for next year. If they don't feel great about this draft and the whole scouting process and everything, I wonder if that's something that might happen a little bit more. But I'm not sure.
Might be best. There might actually be a combine next year.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
Yeah, but then you got to think too. Teams are going to want to trade up as well, and there's not going to be a quarterback there that teams are going to want to trade up for.
yeah, for sure.
And that's usually what happens. Like I think we saw that with Lamar Jackson, where the Ravens traded up so they get that 5th-year option for him, and
Yeah.
usually there's a guy or two every year that could be drafted at the end of round 1 where a team will trade up from 40 or whatever to 32 and get that 5th-year option. But I don't see a quarterback really worther of that.
Could be
giving
Kellen
up some
Mond
draft
or
capital
Mills
for.
maybe, but yeah.
Yeah. And another thing is with 5 quarterbacks, well, we'll say 3 with Fields, Lance, and Mac Jones. If teams really wanted a quarterback or were hungry, they probably would have tried to make a move to trade up.
Yeah.
So, okay. So Norm, you're on the clock now at 22 with Tennessee.
Tennessee's gonna take Elijah Moore out of Ole Miss. We're trying to replace, well, not the similar play styles, but a wide receiver in Corey Davis.
Nice pick.
Yeah, that's a good pick. Yep.
You know, another Mississippi receiver for him.
All right, Mark, you're on the clock at 23 with the Jets.
Okay, so the Jets again have a lot of needs. I've been hearing the Travis Etienne buzz here. I don't buy it. I think the Jets have too many needs to take a running back here. I think with Robert Saleh being there and the way he built his team, we've already built a pretty stellar defensive line. Brought in Sheldon Rankins, brought in Carl Lawson. I think we need one more edge rusher, and then that's an elite defensive line. So to me, they go Greg Rousseau here. I think he's a little bit better fit in that system than Alzari is. A little bit bigger of a guy. I don't know why. I don't really buy the Greg Rousseau falling so far on draft boards. Where the heck is he? Who had his 52 on this one? That's utterly ridiculous. But yeah, to me, Greg Rousseau's a first round talent for sure. Some people have him going in the top 15 even. So
yeah, I think his pro day really hurt him, that he had that year off and then didn't test well. I think
he killed himself with that year off. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's going to be some questions about his work ethic.
Yeah, but I think you get a guy like Robert Saleh looking at his skill set, and I think that if anybody can help him, and then you're putting him alongside a guy like Quinnen Williams and Carl Lawson, like not going to be a ton of pressure on him. He's going to get a lot of one-on-one matchups, and I mean he was dynamic last year. He's got some holes in his game, but the guy can get to the passer.
Yep, for sure. And you want high upside guys at edge, right?
Yeah.
He's definitely a no draft on my list. That being off for a year, only having 1 year of tape, and then showing up to the pro day out of shape, and it just doesn't look good. You guys said a lot.
I agree with that.
Yeah, and I don't get
kind of a weird spot. There's really no one to take here for the Jets, in my opinion. Like, there's not a corner that I like taking at this part. I mean, you could Farley, but he's plummeting down draft boards because of his injury concerns too. I mean, you could take Newsome, I guess. All the good offensive linemen, I believe, are gone. I don't want to take a running back, so it's kind of a crappy position for them to be in right here. But man, yep, fair enough, and that happens sometimes, right? And this could be a trade down spot too. I don't put too much stock on a guy having one. Like, it's the whole pro day thing too. I mean, the guy had a bad day. Like, it is what it is. Maybe he wasn't feeling great. Maybe he was nervous and didn't perform. Maybe he doesn't look good in drills, but he's just a baller. Like, I don't know. To me, I think he's worth a shot.
Do you want a guy who doesn't show up though? Doesn't perform under the pressure?
No, I mean, it's a different kind of pressure though, right? I mean, some guys just don't look good in drills. Some guys look amazing in drills, and then they get drafted too high, and then I don't know. I had to put the tape on and watching the guy get all the sacks he did last year. And
my issue with Rousseau is, I mean, he used to be a wide receiver, so he should be a little more athletic than he is. And he was off for a year. So, I mean, if I'm his agent, I'm just having him train for the combine drills the entire time.
Yeah.
So those guys should have outperformed. Just like Rousseau should be outperforming Jalen Phillips, in my opinion, in the combine type drills, because he had all that time to prepare. And that's why I posted something in the NFL chat about Jamar Chase, how it kind of solidified him as the number one guy, because he was working hard in the offseason, and he ran like a, whatever we want to call it, the 2021 4.39.
I mean, I don't like that. I think Jalen Phillips also made him look worse. You know what I mean? Because Jalen Phillips is such a freak athlete. They're completely different build guys, right? Like, Gregory Rousseau is your 6'7", like typical hand in the ground defensive end, right? Whereas, you know, Phillips can play a little bit. He can play pretty much linebacker, D end, whatever you want, and he's a freak too, right? Like, so I think that kind of made Rousseau look a little bit worse. Even I didn't think it was that bad, to be honest with you. I didn't think he looked great, but not enough to drop
fair
off
enough.
the board.
All right, so Alex, you're on the clock now at 24 with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
The Pittsburgh Steelers did pretty well last year when they had a well-balanced attack between rushing and receiving.
I don't
forget
like
what
where this is going.
No, I bet you don't. I don't know if it was injuries or just them falling out of their game plan or James Conner just falling apart. But I'm going to go with a true 3-down workhorse with Javonte Williams. This guy can do it all, man. This tape is pretty damn good. I put him in the top 3, obviously, at the running back position in this draft, and he's exciting, man. He can run between the tackles. He can catch. He's durable.
So would you have taken Williams over Najee Harris?
No, I would not have in this scheme. Definitely not.
So do you have Harris 1, Williams 2, and Etienne 3?
I do, yeah.
Okay, that's good to know.
I think it all depends on team needs too. If they're an outside zone scheme, then somebody like the 49ers, I go Etienne. But it all depends on what team's picking.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, fair enough. So I'm now on the clock at 25 with the Jags. And I see a lot of mocks with the Jags taking a receiver here. And even if Bateman and Moore were here, and Terrace Marshall is still here, but I just don't see the Jags spending a first-round pick on a receiver. They signed Marvin Jones. They have DJ Chark. They spent a second last year on Laviska Shenault. I don't think wide receiver is as big of a need as everyone else is making it out to be. I'm a huge Richie Grant guy, the safety from UCF. And I think he's going to be available when the Jags pick again at 33 or at 45. So I think the pick here is going to be Caleb Farley. They're a little bit ways away, so if he needs to, miss the first half of the season, it's not a big deal for them. Obviously, none of us have any idea what's going on with his medical, with his back. But I think the Jags did a really good job in free agency, shoring up the D-line. They signed Shaq Griffin as well to play corner. And they drafted CJ Henderson last year to pair with him. But I think if they can hit on Farley, he's going to be the best. If his medical checks out, he'll be the best corner in the class. So Caleb Farley, the slide falls at 25 to the Jags. And I mean, Farley could end up being a day 3 guy too. Like a second back surgery for a corner or for any NFL player is not good. But we have no idea. We have zero clue how bad it is, how good it is. So he could go literally anywhere in this draft. But the Jags are going to take a chance there at 25.
I like it. I mean, when you're picking first overall, you obviously got a lot of holes. And I mean, you hit on a pick like that with a guy who's projected to be the first corner taken for a while there before all of his back injuries and everything. I mean, if you hit on that pick, all of a sudden you're looking pretty darn good. I like taking the chance there personally.
Yeah, he's really athletic. I think he fits their system well. Like he's a good pairing with CJ Henderson. They're both so athletic. They could play man all day. And I heard an orthopedic surgeon talk about Caleb Farley's back.
Oh, we lost him. Hopefully Norm's back isn't seizing up.
Norm.
We'll let him come back to it if we need to.
Yeah.
But we'll move on to the Browns pick at 26. So Mark, you're on the clock.
All right, so we're sitting here with the Browns pick. They've got a pretty good team, actually. They don't have as many needs as they've had in the past. It's kind of a pretty darn good roster. For me, I like taking Azeez Ojulari here and pairing him across the line from Myles Garrett, and that's going to be a nightmare to deal with, those two guys.
Yeah, that's going to be a problem, and they've needed help across from Garrett for a long time now.
I think they're going to be a guy. They're going to be a team they're going to get one of these high end edge rushers. Is probably pretty much going to be what they're going to do, I think.
All right, so the Ravens are on the clock here at 27, and this is supposed to be Norm's pick. So why don't we kind of talk about it and see,
okay,
and kind of make a community pick here. So Alex, who do you think they would take?
Oh, probably the safety out of TCU, Trevon Moehrig.
Herring, yep.
I fucking hate every wide receiver that goes to that team because they don't get the ball.
Yeah.
So I'm not going wide receiver for them because they can make do with anyone probably at this point. And I
What
don't know
about a
if-
Terrace Marshall as a fit? Kind of a bigger body to go with Hollywood Brown and some of those little guys that they have there. I think if they do decide to go receiver, I think Marshall makes the most sense for them.
Yeah,
And with Lamar's accuracy issues, and I don't think Lamar really throws a terrible deep ball per se, but in the intermediate and the short stuff, I think he needs somebody with a little bigger catch radius, like a guy like Terrace Marshall. But I think he would probably be the receiver to go to there. But your vote would be Marion, hey?
yeah, I don't. There's a couple edges.
I'd go with
Both
Owe
for the
personally. Oh, Norm's back.
For now, but you would take Owe, Mark?
Yeah, I think with the loss of Judon, there's a hole there, and
Yeah,
Yeah,
I agree with that pick.
I might take Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah.
yeah,
I think he's a Swiss Army knife that Harbaugh would love to have in his tool belt there.
I love that guy's game.
Yeah, and you know what? Even in the NFL, in the mock draft that we did in the NFL chat, the community one, Owusu-Koramoah fell, I think, out of the first round.
Yeah,
And it's hard that, like, he's a good player, but it seems like we just can't find a fit for him.
he's one of those coverage linebackers. It's kind of hard to place now, right? Like,
And I think if Isaiah Simmons lit the world on fire last year, I think Owusu-Koramoah would be picked a lot higher. But because Simmons didn't really do too much last year, as far as splash plays and didn't have a ton of highlights, the general public, I mean, none of us are breaking down Isaiah Simmons' NFL film, right?
no.
But I mean, it didn't seem like Simmons really did too much. And I think if he had a great year or was in the running for Defensive Rookie of the Year, I think Owusu-Koramoah would be a lot higher value to the general public. So Norm, you're good, hey?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, so you're still on that. We were just kind of talking about what pick we would make if we were the Baltimore Ravens, but so you're on the clock still with the Ravens.
No, they have a couple players on the board here they could definitely go with. The Ravens usually tend to draft best player on the board, but I think that kind of fits in with Terrace Marshall Jr. The pick basically, yeah, Terrace Marshall Jr. is going to be the pick.
Nice.
Yeah,
Good
and
call,
were you back in the Zoom when we were talking about Marshall?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think if they do go receiver, that makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
Well, he's got enough. He's not just a big body either. He's got enough athleticism to do a lot of things. He's not just a big body.
I thought you were going to make a Kelvin Benjamin reference.
No.
Okay, so Alex, you're on the clock now at 28 with the New Orleans Saints.
Oh shit. Oh.
And this is a team where I think they're on the downward spiral. I think they're a sneaky pick to be picking in the top 10 next year.
Yeah,
I think teams are going to figure out this quarterback situation, and if they do end up rolling with Taysom Hill, like, I think teams are just going to load the box. And if they do roll with Jameis, I think we all know his faults, and teams are going to really focus on Kamara next year and really lock him up. So I think this is a team that kind of missed their window with Breeze, and it's kind of weird to think that the Saints only won one Super Bowl with Drew Brees, who's like a top 10 quarterback of all time, and you could easily argue that he's a lot higher than that. But they won one Super Bowl, and I don't know if it's the Brady curse or what, but
They just never could put everything together. It's like one year they'd have an amazing offense, setting records, but their defense was absolute garbage, couldn't stop anybody. Then the next year they build a defense that was amazing, and then someone would get hurt or their offense wasn't performing. It's like the last few years were really weird for them, I think.
And it's not easy to win a Super Bowl, but when everyone focuses on the quarterback, and then you find one with Drew Brees, And guys like Breeze don't come around very often where like he could have easily ended up in Miami if his physical would have worked out with his shoulder, right? He was planning on signing in Miami and then he fails his physical and the Saints pick him up off the scrap heap and then the rest is history. So
If he goes to Miami,
yeah,
he might just be a nobody though, right? You know what I mean? He ended in
Yeah,
the
and-
perfect situation for him.
well, and how much you got to think maybe Brady doesn't win maybe one of those Super Bowls, maybe Miami gets
Yeah.
through him, right? Like who knows?
Yeah.
So the whole course of NFL history changes if Breeze signs in Miami. But
Yeah.
enough about that. Alex, sorry to hijack you there. You're on the clock here at 28 with the Saints.
Yeah, man, you're good. I'm gonna go with the dynamic playmaker and Kadarius Toney to go across from Michael Thomas. I didn't want to take this guy in the first round, but after watching his tape, he did pretty well, man. He's pretty electric. So why not pair him with somebody else who's a big body receiver? I know Taysom isn't the best choice at quarterback, but maybe once they replace him with maybe Jameis Winston, Tony can skyrocket.
Yeah, and he's a guy whose highlights are pretty exceptional. His change of direction and him coming in and out of his breaks is something else.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm on the clock now at 29 with the Packers, and I think they probably need to go quarterback here. They don't really have anybody waiting in the wings for Aaron Rodgers. But all the top 5 guys are gone, and I don't think Davis Mills is really an option here this high. But in all honesty, I think this is a pretty easy pick. I think the Packers take Christian Barmore here. A lot of reports have been coming out lately that the NFL is a lot higher on Barmore than the general public are, and all the mock draft analysts, writers, whatever you want to call them, the draft community, I guess. So I think Barmore is going to go a lot higher. He was also in consideration at 17 for me for the Raiders. But when Parsons fell, I took Parsons there at 17. But I think the Packers need some defensive help, and Barmore is the perfect fit for them. So Barmore to the Packers at 29.
I think the Packers are a big trade up possibility too for the Packers if there's a receiver still sitting there that they like. I mean, they got to get the guy a couple more weapons here. So
I don't get the logic of them taking receiver here if they didn't take one last year.
Well, now they've heard all the noise.
Yeah,
N'Keal Harry.
Yeah. No.
Tunyon was exceptional last year. He's going to get a lot more attention this year, obviously.
Yep.
And like Valdez-Scantling, he catches a lot of shit because of all his drops on deep balls. But I mean, he's not going to stop you from drafting a receiver. But I think the Packers could talk themselves into him being a solid number 2 across from Devontae Adams. And I was thinking about this last night. Just the idea that you need to surround your quarterback with a bunch of weapons, but if the quarterback's good enough, you shouldn't have to surround him with weapons. So
yeah, for sure.
It's one of those things where if you, like we talked about it with Daniel Jones earlier at 11, if Daniel Jones is the answer, then you shouldn't need to surround him with weapons. He should elevate the weapons around him. And I know some teams are stuck, like a Green Bay, right? I mean, Rodgers is a high-end quarterback, but you never know when his play is going to fall off. Or a team like Cleveland's kind of stuck with Baker, right? He had a good year and then kind of a shitty year, and then he had like a really good year last year. But like, do you surround him with weapons, or do you expect if you're going to pay him all that money, he should be the one elevating the weapons around him?
Yeah.
Where do you guys stand on that?
I'm just saying, to me, if there's one receiver they fall in love with, I think that they should do it. If, a guy like Elijah Moore is available and they can move up a few picks and get him, I don't know. To me, like, I don't know. To me, once the teams kind of figure out how to stop Devontae Adams a bit, we saw it in the playoffs this year too, right? Like, they just need someone else that can make a play for them.
Yeah, I think they need playmakers on the outside. Like, I agree with you, Pat. Like, obviously a good quarterback does elevate, but wide receiver is a premium position, and they're just some of the guys they have just aren't doing it. They're not show me players. They're not elevating the team themselves. So why not try and fill one of those holes if they're already one of the, best teams in the NFL? Why not try and fill a deficient position at a deep spot or a deep position in the draft?
And I think the Packers are fucked if Devontae Adams goes down.
Yeah, 100%.
Everything revolves around him, right? They don't like Valdez-Scantling isn't it. He's not going to be able to step into the number one role, but maybe a guy like De'Ami Brown in the second, or Amari Rodgers in the second, might be a little better fit than a receiver at the back end of round one. But anyway, that's a conversation for another time.
Yeah, sure.
Mark, you're on the clock at 30 now with Buffalo.
So Buffalo's basically got two choices here. They need edges and they need corners to me. To me, I'm just looking at Jason Owe sitting here at 30 with all of his potential and insane athletic ability. And I think in a division that, doesn't have the best quarterback play and has got a lot of young quarterbacks, you can get a high-end edge rusher out there on the end to disrupt things for you. I think that helps. And then also, like, shoring up the edge also takes some of the pressure off your back end, your corners, which were a little bit of a problem last year. So to me, their number one problem was getting to the passer. So.
Yep. No, that's a good pick.
But if you watch the Penn State Pro Day, everyone was there to see Micah Parsons, and Jason Owe completely blew everybody out of the water. The guy's an absolute freak. And I know there's the production. He doesn't have quite the production to match his athletic ability, but I mean, sometimes you got to take a chance to see what happens.
I think it was Daniil Hunter maybe who didn't have any sacks in college. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was another one of those things where he was still pretty disruptive, but he obviously turned into a great pro and learned how to finish in the pros.
Yeah.
So
I actually just got an update from Bleacher Report that said Owe shooting up draft boards, a hot name among scouts drawing comparisons to Danielle Hunter.
Okay, so I guess I was right.
That's awesome.
Okay, you guys want to restart the mock and then we can have Owe higher?
I'd like to take him with the Jets, please.
Yeah, 2.
Since you guys roasted me for taking Greg Russo.
All right. Let's finish this up and then we can kind of talk about some of the picks. So Norm, you're on the clock at 31 with the Chiefs.
Okay, the Chiefs are kind of backed into a corner where you obviously usually want to take the best player available, but they're so deficient at tackle. I feel like they kind of have to take their guy here. Obviously, they don't pick again until the end of the second round. So they're going to take Walker Little out of Stanford. Tackle.
He's a PSS favorite.
He is. He's
and not a the Draft Network favorite.
Oh, geez. Jesus. He was like the number one prospect coming out of high school. He's I wouldn't say a physical freak, but he's very athletically gifted. He's only played one game in the past 2 years though, because he tore his knee and then he sat out this year. So he's obviously a risk for a few different ways, injury wise, and just not seeing him play last year. But I think he's got a high ceiling, and none of his concerns are on the field. So I think he'd be a good fit there.
All right. Maxwell, you got the last pick here with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 32. Sorry, the defending Super Bowl champion, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think that's how I legally have to say it.
Oh, man. So defensive line and edge. Yeah, I'm going to need some help on this one, boys. How about that?
Well, here's my opinion on the Bucs. So they have everybody back, starter wise.
Yeah.
I think they need to look at it like what's going to happen if one of our guys gets hurt? Where are we most vulnerable for depth? Or they could look at it like, who's going to help in a rotation, right? So I think edge or interior defensive line could be the answer there. Unfortunately, the defensive tackle class isn't good. Maybe a guy like Landon Dickerson, who can play, almost every spot on the line if need be in a pinch. He could be your backup where if some guys get hurt, a tackle or a guard, he could maybe slide in and play effectively. Or maybe you go corner because you can never have enough corners and you're starting 3 of them. I mean, they still call it sub packages, but most teams are in the nickel at least the majority of the game. And if if one of your corners goes down, you just slide Greg Newsome in, or Eric Stokes, whoever your highest guy is. I think that might be an option. What do you guys think?
I think if Travis Etienne sitting there at 32, I mean, I know you signed Leonard Fournette back, but you think of a Ronald Jones and Travis Etienne going forward, like, I don't know. I think that's pretty hard to pass off. That offense would just be absolutely insane. Then you get Travis Etienne could be a really good.
Didn't they
really
sign
bad
somebody else
for them.
this offseason?
What's that?
Didn't they sign somebody else this offseason, the running back?
Yeah, but it's, well, they brought Fournette back.
Somebody that hasn't been there, though.
I'm not sure, to be honest with you. I'm going to look it up.
Was it James White?
Gio.
Oh, Gio, that's who it was. Yeah, Gio. They just signed Gio, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think and Etienne would probably be doing the Gio role, the pass catcher,
Yeah.
that type of right away anyway. But I think the Bucs are trying to load up for Brady's window here.
Yeah.
Like,
Or they could go
fix-
quarterback
I've
too,
seen-
if they like Davis Mills enough.
You know what? I was just gonna say I've seen some mocks with them taking
Yeah.
a quarterback, and I just don't agree with it.
There's no point.
No, and I think Brady's not gonna let that happen either.
No.
I was going to go Greg Newsome here at 32, but I'm going to go with something more versatile with Landon Dickerson out of Alabama. Their cornerbacks here in Tampa are pretty loaded, and they proved it last year. I think they had a couple injuries, and Sean Murphy-Bunting came in a little bit. I mean, he did have a few mistakes, but he can improve on those. So I'm going to go with the offensive line here.
Yeah, I think that pick makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I think they need versatility and guys who can help them this year.
Yeah.
So I think a rotational edge or a backup in a position where they're going to need like a guy who can play a lot of snaps for them is the move. So, Mark, what was your favorite pick of the draft? Whether it doesn't necessarily need to be your pick, but what was your favorite pick?
Can you just like scroll down slowly so I can see them? I can't really.
Yeah. Why don't we go through it again? So
Yeah.
obviously this is up on the screen, but we have the 3 QBs going, and then Pitts and Chase, Waddle, Sewell, Slater, Trey Lance, the Broncos, and then Surtain. And then this is kind of where it goes a little bit. This is where we kind of had to put a little bit of thought into some of these picks. So
I think
we had Devontae
Parsons to the
Smith.
Raiders at 17 is a huge pick. It's a big steal for them. And I've seen that mocked a lot too. I think Parsons is going to fall a little bit just because of positional needs of teams ahead of him. A lot of teams need offensive linemen, a lot of teams need corners, and a lot of teams need quarterbacks. And a guy like Parsons might slip a little bit further than he should.
Yeah, and that's what's going to happen is these QBs are going to push some pretty skilled guys down the board. Norm, what about you? What was your favorite pick?
Favorite pick. I like Sewell to the Lions. I think that's a good pick for them. They're not going after it this year. That's just stocking up talent. Some Lions fans, I feel a little delusional about Jared Goff. Like earlier, one of you guys said they were just kind of taking him on for the the salary, but I think there's a lot of Lions fans that think he's going to be a legitimate quarterback for them. And
I've heard a lot of experts say that too, that they traded for Jared Goff. I'm like, no, man, they took Jared Goff to get an extra pick. Like that
was
whole
my
narrative doesn't make sense to me.
no, but
No,
it's
NFL chat would disagree that Goff is good.
Yeah. Jared Goff cost me Trevor Lawrence. Like he's my sworn enemy for life now.
God bless him.
no, the draft
Maxwell,
is,
what was your favorite pick?
I've got two. I really like Najee Harris landing in Miami to partner back up with Tua. He can do it all. He's a great running back. I know he's a little bit older, but you realistically only need running backs for their first contract, at least in fantasy football anyways. But it's very lucky that Mac Jones fell down to the Patriots. I don't think I could see him falling down that far in the actual draft.
So what do you think his floor is in the real draft?
Oh,
he could
I
fall
can't
like
see a way
assume
that
that he-
the top five get out of the top. Any of the top five quarterbacks get out of the top 10 personally, with trades.
And I
yeah.
think Dallas could trade back too. They're not a
Yeah.
team that is going to necessarily stick and pick.
I'm going to say 19, maybe.
You think
I think
his
Mac Jones
floor is
could-
19?
At worst. At worst, 19.
So you think the Patriots could pass on him then?
It's possible, yeah. They might trade out of the first round. They might trade up. You never know with those guys. They're crafty as hell.
Yeah.
Something that hasn't really been talked about, and that comment kind of got me thinking, is what about the Raiders taking Mac Jones?
Hmm.
That's a fit that I haven't really seen too much, but I mean, they're kind of in QB purgatory right now with Derek Carr. Like, he's good enough to win them games, but like, you're not going to win a Super Bowl with him. And if you can take you could probably trade Carr, or I think they re-signed Mariota, right?
Mm-hmm.
isn't that
So I
kind
mean,
of
if you
chasing?
could you could trade Derek Carr to the Bears for a second round pick. I'm sure they would do that. And you hit the reset button and try to find your franchise QB.
I don't know. I just feel like that would be the cherry on the off season for the Raiders of like chasing your tail. Like they dump their best unit in the offensive line, and then they dump Derek Carr, which Derek Carr and their offensive line weren't really their problems. But obviously you can't go back on the offensive line. But
The thing with the Raiders is, and I almost thought about taking, if Parsons wasn't there, I think I probably would have taken Caleb Farley with that pick. And the thing is that Gruden still has 7 years left on his contract, so he's not going anywhere. So he's a guy who he can hit the reset button on quarterback. He can take a swing for the fence with Farley if his medical's kind of up in the air, and he doesn't have to worry about getting fired, or they're gonna have to pay him $60 million to do nothing.
yeah, is
So
Mayock
there's
on the
such
way
a
out?
wild
Though?
card. Pardon me?
Is Mike Mayock on the way out if they don't have a good draft?
I'm not sure exactly what his contract is, but
I don't
like
think
that first draft that they had was terrible with when they
The
took
Colin
Colin
Farrell
Farrell
pick
at
was so
4.
bad. Oh,
And even like I was going to get into this after you guys made your picks, or you're talking about your favorite picks, but like I'm not taking a running back in the first round.
Not at all.
no.
Not this year.
And like the fact that 3 went in the first round is probably not going to happen. But I mean, even though Josh Jacobs has been a pretty good back for them, like I think that was a bad pick. And then I think they took Jonathan Abram as well in that draft in the first round. They had 3 first-round picks and got not much
Yeah.
out of it.
Well, Abrams good when he can stay on the field, but my God, that guy just plays way too recklessly.
Yeah, like he's like a kamikaze pilot.
Yeah.
I would say my favorite pick was the Tevin Jenkins pick at 20 to the Bears. Alex, I think you said when you made the pick that QB would probably be ideal, but that's probably not going to happen unless they trade up. And I think shoring up the O-line is probably a good call. And David Montgomery had a pretty good second half of the season last year. He struggled a lot in the first half, but he turned it up. And if they can relieve a little bit of pressure with running the ball with Montgomery and, hopefully getting Allen Robinson the touches that he has a little closer to the line of scrimmage, maybe to make it some easier throws for Andy Dalton or whoever ends up being the quarterback there, then that's really going to help them. But yeah, I like the Tevin Jenkins pick at 20.
He also had a cakewalk of a schedule the last half of the year for Montgomery, but he's definitely undervalued and sometimes mismanaged.
I remember seeing a draft report on him during the draft, and it was just hyperbole to the max. It was like Le'Veon Bell's vision and Saquon Barkley's speed. It was just like super over the top, and his expectations were way, way, way too high. But I think he could be like a serviceable, like 1A, 1B back in the NFL. He needs a guy like a little scat back to go with him, like a Tariq Cohen, basically. So I think he's in a good spot there, but he's not going to be the guy who you can flex out and throw him swing passes and know he's going to get the first down like a Danny Woodhead used to do for the Chargers and the Patriots.
He can catch. He can definitely catch. He's undervalued, that's for sure.
Well, I'm more worried about his wiggle and whatnot, right? Like he's not like being able to catch and being able to run routes and stuff is, I think, a little bit different. But it just seems like they have there's no rhyme or reason for their play calling in Chicago. It just seemed like they're spinning a wheel and whatever it landed on, they were running that play. Like they had no identity at all. And it's tough when you have Trubisky and Foles as your QBs.
No, I think Chicago's in one of the worst spots. Like Andy Dalton he gets a lot of crap, but he's not the worst quarterback in the NFL. But I think he puts you in the worst spot where he's going to win you enough games that you're not going to have a high pick next year and be able to pick his replacement.
Yeah.
Because they're going to be picking in the teens again.
Pardon?
They're going to be picking in the teens.
Absolutely. And they lost some pieces on their defense like that. It's not a good spot to be in.
I think the Matt Nagy thing is starting to wear off too. I mean, he's got that Adam Gase stink around him now. He was the next big thing, the offensive genius, and I don't know. He just doesn't seem like he's got it. I don't know. Matt Nagy's just rubbing me the wrong way. I was pretty high on him when he first got there too, and I mean, I think there's only so much you can do with crappy quarterback play. I get that, but
yep, for sure. I think their interest in Russell Wilson was real.
Yeah.
Like I think they were really making a push for him, and I just think Seattle was asking way too much for him. And I don't blame Seattle at all.
They had no chance getting Russell with the 20th overall pick. This is their highest pick, right? I mean, you put Russell Wilson on that team, the picks in the next 2 years probably become late 20s, early 30s. Yeah. And then like what value do those picks really have? Yeah. So I mean, I don't think there's any way they're making that happen.
Well, the offer they turned down, what was it? 2 or 3 first-round picks, a second-round pick, Akeem Hicks, and Kyle Fuller. Like,
that's not enough to me.
That's a lot. Akeem Hicks is a stud.
Yeah.
And Fuller's a good player too.
Mm-hmm. And they flew all the way out to North Dakota to get turned down.
Anyway, I want to thank everybody for watching. Hopefully we can do this again next year, or maybe we can do a second round at some point. So thanks everyone for watching. Bye.